Social Democratic YouTuber Kyle Kulinski was talking to his friend Corin on their podcast, and they decided to talk about the election and some of the final ads that the campaigns are running. And Kyle Kulinski dropped his prediction at the moment for who is going to win the presidential election. Let's take a listen and we'll react.
Well, also, I should point out, you know what Trump's closing ads are about? Trans people. Literally, his closing ads are like fear-mongering about trans people, like, men and women's sports, and look at these trans people. Like, Republicans tried this shit in 2022 in the midterms. They ran dozens of ads. Of course they did, because there's like, pick a state in the country. There's like 3 trans people in the whole fucking state who play a sport. Like, you're making a national issue out of some high school volleyball team, you fucking psychopaths? Nobody's thinking about this. Nobody cares about this. People want to know how they're going to pay for their food at the grocery store and fucking have health care and shit. So I'm telling you, man, right now, as of right now, I'm bullish on Kamala. If I had to bet right now, I would say Kamala's going to win. It's very possible that, the momentum can flip and there's still, a little over a week until the election. But everything I'm seeing now, I'm like, and the other thing is, I don't know why other people feel the opposite way. I really don't. Like, I know that, like Cenk, for example, on the Young Turks, a lot of his commentary has been like hyper-analyzing and hyper-criticizing like Kamala's steps. But he doesn't even like factor the way Trump is campaigning into his evaluation. There's this like sense of, by definition, the Republicans are always running a decent campaign and are being populist, and it's like, they're not doing that. So why are you not hyper-analyzing their campaign also? You know what I'm saying? So it makes me feel like, I don't know, it just makes me feel like people are not really being objective about it. Like, it doesn't feel like 2016 to me right now. It really doesn't.
I mean, the other thing that scares me too, and I just saw this earlier, was like...
Okay, so you just heard that. He is very bullish on Kamala Harris winning. And he talked about Cenk Uygur's perspective. And let's be fair to Cenk Uygur. Actually, he's onto something too, where, Kyle framed him as saying, oh, the Republicans are always running a good campaign by default, and they're always being populist. Well, Cenk's onto something there in the sense, and Kyle Kulinski has admitted this before, but he's onto something in the sense that the Republican Party, Republican candidates, especially Donald Trump, are graded on a curve. They can say pretty much whatever they want, and it'll just get less coverage if it's something foolish. It'll get more coverage if they say something that's insightful or positive, to the extent they actually do. So Cenk is onto something. The American people, they need to see a lot more negative from the Republicans in order for it to compare to the negative that they get from Democrats, because Democrats are just held to a higher standard. Media will freak out over stuff that Democrats say, but not that Republicans say. So, for example, take just earlier this week, Biden's garbage comments. The only garbage I saw were his supporters. That's not a direct quote, but yeah, where he seemed like he was calling Trump supporters garbage, even though it's debatable. But yeah, the media ran with it. You had George Stephanopoulos asking Tim Walz about it. People just taking it as a given that Biden called Trump supporters garbage. Meanwhile, there was no coverage of the fact that during Trump's Madison Square Garden rally, there was a guy up there speaking who called Democrats all low lives and Jew haters and degenerates. Not a single outlet talking about that in the mainstream, because we're just so used to it. And to be fair, I don't think we really know who that guy who was speaking was. I certainly didn't know who he was. But yeah, if it were at a Democratic rally and someone's speaking about the GOP that way, then it's going to get covered. So I think Kyle's sort of ignoring Cenk's argument. I like how I paused on this picture of Kyle vaping, by the way. Don't vape, kids. It's not a good idea. But anyhow, so is Kyle also right that Kamala Harris seems like she's winning? I'm inclined to reluctantly agree. Because I think that she is the one running the better campaign so far. I think a lot of her arguments in her closing argument made sense, that just by default, she's the candidate of unity, because she's not running on terminating the Constitution. She's not running on calling all of her opponents communists. She's not basically out there downplaying January 6th. Trump's got people in his base who say it was an inside job. She recognizes it for what it is. She recognizes that, that you don't get to just terminate the Constitution because you lost the election. You don't get to say, oh, I'm going to be a dictator on day one and that's all right. You don't get to, threaten Haitian immigrants with lies. Like, actually, it puts their lives in danger. So just this stuff that we've seen from Trump between 2021 and now, starting with January 6th, has been absolutely disqualifying for any presidential candidate. And she's bringing that up in a way that I think is mostly really powerful. How much that resonates with the American voter, I don't know. Will people be more concerned about the fact that the economy wasn't quite as good as they hoped that it would be under Joe Biden? Maybe. But yeah, to Kyle's point too, and I think this video was shot before then, but there was an Iowa poll that had Kamala Harris up by 3 points in Iowa. And I've heard Biden was actually down by 18 in Iowa at this same time in 2020. So yeah, the momentum is shifting. It seems like it's shifting back in a pro-Kamala Harris direction. The title of this video from Kyle, by the way, was Trump's Madison Square Garden rally may cost him the election. I don't know if any single rally is going to cost anyone the election, least of all Donald Trump, because as I've said before, we're just so used to it. We're not surprised by Tony Hinchcliffe getting up there and joking that Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage. People have just become numb to it. But here's something that I don't think we're thinking about enough. That even though people are kind of numb to hearing about how bad Trump is all the time, and they're just like, yeah, we get it. It leads me to believe that there's actually a secret Kamala Harris vote. And let me explain what I mean by that. So, yes, Democrats, leftists, anti-Trump types, they might not be as aggressively posting on X or on Facebook or on Instagram about how much they can't stand Donald Trump and how important it is that he loses in this November. They're not being as vocal, but that doesn't mean that the people who in their heads are like, yeah, Donald Trump sucks. He's terrible. He's gotten so much worse the past 4 years. I really cannot fathom the idea of having him as president again. That they're still out there, those people, and they're going to vote for Harris, even if they're not posting on social media about it all the time. They're doing their civic duty, which is to vote, and they see Kamala Harris as the better candidate, but they're not super vocal about that. So it's like, it's weird in the sense that, like, hey, is the silent majority, which by the way was a term used by Republican Richard Nixon, is the silent majority going back to the Democratic camp? I don't know. We will see. But I get the sense that Trump haters are actually not being vocal enough in this election, while Trump supporters are being very vocal. They're not afraid whatsoever. They have no hesitance about voicing their support for Donald Trump. And they kind of did in the year 2016 and 2020. But now they perceive it as being edgy because Trump's not the one in power. They feel like the economy happened to be better under Trump. And they think that, yeah, well, at least we could afford gas and groceries under Trump. I'm going to vote for that guy. Mean tweets don't bother me. I'd like mean tweets and affordable groceries. Yeah. You see all this sophistry like that on X from a lot of these right-wing accounts. As for Trump's closing arguments, I do think Kyle Kulinski is overly critical. I don't think that making ads about trans people hurts or helps Trump. It is kind of weird that they'd be in the closing messaging, but yeah, I just don't see it as a super lopsided issue one way or the other. There are people who have strong feelings for or against the idea of trans people in sports. So Trump's not really shooting himself in the foot with those ads, in my view. But the fact of the matter is, I think Harris is running a better campaign. I think that there is a silent majority or a very strong silent group of people for Kamala Harris. And I could be wrong. And you can come back to this video and say that I was wrong. But that's just my analysis. I could be right too. So we will see. But yeah, it's always interesting covering Kyle Kulinski because He did warn that Trump has a good chance in 2016, and Trump ended up winning. He did predict a Hillary Clinton win, so he was wrong on that. He predicted a Biden's win in 2020. And in 2022, although he didn't predict that the Democrats would clean house, he did not believe that there was going to be a red wave. And there was not really a red wave. There was a red trickle at best, a red wave only in the states of Florida, really, state of Florida and Iowa, which Kamala Harris is now doing well in Iowa. But yeah, so always interesting to hear from Kyle Kulinski. He's wrong on some things. He's right on some things. We all have our biases. Assess the biases of the people that you listen to and come to your own conclusions. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think that Kamala Harris has this in the bag? Do you think that she has an all right chance? Do you think we're screwed and Trump is going to win for sure? Do you think that it's not only a Trump win that's in the air, but a Trump landslide? Holy cow, that would be insane. Let me know in the comments. Do you agree with what Kyle Kulinski said? Do you agree with what I said? As always, leave a like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next video.